Well, this one's going to be a little bit different. So, welcome back to The Best Deal. This is my video game review show that I do here on YouTube on the random occasion. It's really whenever the heck I want to do it, not really, there's not really any set schedule to it. Last year I did like 5 or 6 Best Deal videos. This year, with the exception of this one, I've only done one, which was the Republic Commando PS4 release. So yeah, this is my second Best Deal video of the year. I just kind of do this sporadically whenever I want to. And this one's going to be different because this is I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different format with this one. Usually these videos are very, very heavily scripted, where I write a review that, a written review like you might see on IGN or GameSpot, these video game journalism sites, and that you might read them there, and then they have the video review, which is just the person reading the script. That's usually how I write. That's usually how I produce these videos. The only difference is, you don't ever get to see the script. I don't have it posted on a blog somewhere where you can read the copy as well. It's just the video, and I use and that's it. So this one though, I'm just gonna be kind of spitballing this one. I'm just gonna be talking, because there's so much to talk about here that I could not formulate everything in my head to actually start putting, not pen to paper, because I don't write that way, but, fingers to keyboard on the computer, Microsoft Word. I just couldn't wrap my head around quite everything. I think this really needs to flow from my mouth, and for me to really kind of get my points across this way, and then in post, I'll try to see if I can make sense of this, because I might go back and forth on a couple things here. I may make some points that would be good for earlier, and I might go and I splice those things together, and so I don't really know how this is going to go. Going to experiment a little bit with it, but here we go. So I'm going to be talking about Battlefield 2042, because it's a bit of a hot button issue on the internet. Or at least it was. It seemed to have its like 15 minutes of everyone gets mad and then just kind of fizzled out, which predictable. I kind of saw that coming. So that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about, but which I'll get to later. I know for a fact that that's going to be like the last thing I touch on, because I actually want to talk about the game itself first. So Battlefield 2042 recently released on PC, all of the Xboxes, and then PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So it released on all those systems, and it's kind of been a little bit of a disaster, ? Maybe, depending on who you ask. There's several reasons for that. One of them seems to be that in a lot of cases the game is just downright broken. And in other cases, I feel like it's maybe people are just being too resistant to change. But how much does each of that go hand in hand? And that's kind of maybe my kind of thesis of this video, is I think some of that's going hand in hand. I think some of it's justified. It's really a weird time for Battlefield, but I'm not surprised in the slightest. So I'll just start getting into the basics of it, of Battlefield, the main gameplay. How does it work? What is offered in this game? So Battlefield is a series typically known for its large-scale battles, all-out warfare, complete craziness, bonkers, tanks driving around, jets flying and swooping down from the sky, snipers perched on top of buildings and cliff faces, sniping down at the teeny little ant people walking around down on the ground, and infantry run around trying to capture objectives and stuff. That is the typical Battlefield experience. It is a chaos personified, and I love it. I have been playing Battlefield since 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. So nigh on about a decade. I've been playing Battlefield for almost 10 years. Thereabouts. Not in 8, 9, 10 years. Somewhere in there. In that ballpark. My first one was Battlefield 3. Played it on the PlayStation 3, which is, maybe not the optimal experience for that game. I think a lot of people will probably agree with that, because back in those days, the optimal experience for Battlefield was on the PC. That was where you had the 32 versus 32 lobbies, the larger maps and everything, because on the 360 and the PS3 back in the day, Battlefield had, I think it was 20... Maybe it's just 20 versus 20. Maybe some of them were 24 versus 24. Regardless, the lobbies were smaller, the map sizes were smaller. It was kind of a neutered experience compared to the PC. And I still fell in love with it, because even though things were shrunk down a little bit, it was still a fun experience overall. And so then when the PS4 and Xbox One eventually came out and I got my PS4, I ended up picking up Battlefield 4 when that game came out. Not immediately, because that's one of those things I'll be talking about later about Battlefield as a franchise as a whole. I did wait a little while before I picked it up on the PS4, but man, those 32 versus 32 battles to get the 64 players run around in the lobby on a giant map, knocking down the tower on Seas of Shanghai and blowing up the dam on Lankang Dam and Hainine Resort and all these awesome maps from Battlefield 4 with Levolution and 64 players run around, which is an awesome experience. So I've been just from the amount of time I've been playing these games, I've played them a lot. I'm a big fan of Battlefield. So the all-out warfare experience is certainly something that I enjoy with Battlefield. And in this game, of course, it returns because it's Battlefield. So the two kind of big main all-out warfare modes that we have in this title are the classic Conquest and Breakthrough, which is sort of kind of a different, sort of kind of almost Conquest, but not quite. Get there in a second. So Conquest, of course, is just your typical, there are several points on a map, run around, capture the points. If you lose a point, go and take it from the enemy. There's bad guys run around, kill them before they kill you, etc., etc. It is very self-explanatory. Even if you have no idea how the game works and you're thrown in completely blind, you will figure it out very quickly. It's big domination. The only game mode that's easier than Conquest in my eyes is just Team Deathmatch, because in essence, Conquest is just a really, really big Team Deathmatch with flags. That's kind of the only difference. And then, vehicles and stuff, that's just the tools that you use to kill other players. So that is Conquest, and Conquest, I think, is good in this game. Works really, really well, in my opinion. And I'll be digging into the minutia of that here in a bit. With like a lot of the stuff. There's, like I said, a lot to talk about. So Conquest, I think, works, but I think that's maybe because of the platform I'm playing on. So that is a big difference with Battlefield this year compared to previous years. Battlefield 2042 has different SKUs this time around. You have the last-gen version, which is the PS4 and Xbox One versions. You have those versions, and then you have the PC SKU, which is PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series S/X. Not confusing at all. Thanks, Microsoft. So you have that SKU, and that, for the first time, we are bumping up the lobby sizes. It's now, I think, 128 players. It's some ludicrous number like that. It's 120, 128, something like that. It's a lot of people. So you have 64 versus 64 teams. So I'm not good at math. So whatever 64 plus 64 is, that is your team. That is your lobby size for Battlefield 2042 on PC, PS5, and Xbox, whatever the new Xboxes are. So yeah, and a lot of complaints I see online is that maps are too big, too many open spaces, and too many players, and you kind of get too many players clustered up in only a couple places, and then the rest of the map is just a barren wasteland, which seems to be a problem. On the PS4, on the other hand, that is not a problem, because the PS4 and Xbox One versions are stuck with these 64-player lobbies, where it is 32 teams of 32 and 32, like Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 5, etc. Or Battlefield 3 on PC. The same lobby sizes that Battlefield has had for years. Because of that, the maps are also really shrunken down as well. I think some of them are even maybe a quarter of the size. Some of them are definitely cut in half, but I think some of them may actually be like a quarter of the size of what the other versions of the maps are. And you might think, oh, well, that's kind of dumb that they're scaled down and you're getting less of an experience. Well, actually, I think you're getting the better experience based on what I've seen. Now, I haven't played the PS5 version because I don't have a PS5 because, boys, it's so hard to get a hold of one. I would like one so bad because I want to play Ratchet and Clank. But, yeah, anyway, I think a lot of you out there can probably feel my pain on this because you're probably going through the same thing about not being able to get a PS5. But from what I've seen, there's just all these people complaining about the maps are too big, too many people, blah, blah, blah. So it seems like that the max 64-player lobbies are actually the better experience with the smaller maps because it's a little more scaled to classic. While, yes, it is scaled more to classic Battlefield, and it's not really taking full advantage of what DICE is trying to do here with trying something, being ambitious as DICE is want to do very often and, make bigger and better Battlefield. It being scaled back this time, I think, is actually a good thing on the old systems, and it is maybe the better experience, at least for right now. Because I'm sure that as they work things out, they'll tune things, maybe add in cover, because, we are living in the digital age where things can be patched, which is something else I'll be bringing up later. But, so some of these complaints as of this recording, may not be, in 3 months, may not be a factor at all, who knows. But I'm having a blast with the 64-player max lobbies. It's feeling like classic Battlefield from the 3 and 4 days, just flying around in helicopters, running around on the ground, shooting guys with tanks, blah, 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 all that stuff. It really is honest to goodness classic Battlefield fun, and I'm loving basically every minute of it. And that's just Conquest, because there's another little wrinkle to this, and that is Breakthrough. So Breakthrough is kind of, I guess on a technical note, it is kind of a new mode, but at the same time it's not, because it kind of has shades of, it's a less varied version of, say, Galactic Assault from Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is another game that DICE has made in the past, where you have a team of attackers, you have a team of defenders, and the attackers must take a series of objectives in order to move forward. That's basically what Breakthrough is. It's just that the objectives that you take are not escort an MTT and reach this position, and it's not blow up a clone turbo tank, and it's where one is an escort, another is a demolition. It's not mixing things. It is just cap the flag, move on. That's all Breakthrough is. Another comparison I could make could also be the operations or grand operations from Battlefield 1 and 5, which I think maybe was a little bit more varied in its objectives, similar to Galactic Assault, where you push up on an objective and maybe it's where maybe it's just a capture this objective, maybe this is a demolition, something like that. But I didn't really play operations all that often, because I just felt like the matches just went on way too long, and they jumped from map to map to map. But that's something I'll get into later. So it's a little more simplified, but it works really well, and I am so glad that DICE made this decision to kind of adapt Galactic Assault there, and which in of itself was a adaptation of Walker Assault from Star Wars Battlefront 2015, and which was kind of combining conquest and rush elements from Battlefield games and stuff. So as this lineage of DICE games has gone on throughout the years and the whole last console generation, they've come up with this really cool mode for 2042 in Breakthrough, and I think it's actually the best mode in the game. The funneling of players, and this may be another one of these. This solves the too many people in too few areas and the maps are too big issue, where if you funnel them in a certain direction and don't have them just running around willy-nilly like chickens with their heads cut off in Conquest, then maybe that would be a better experience. But of course, Conquest is the classic Battlefield mode, so I can understand why people would want to divert to that first, because that's kind of like basic instinct for Battlefield fans. It's like, all right, I'm playing Conquest. So Conquest with the 64 players on PS4 is good. I'm so in love with Breakthrough. I don't think I've played on all the maps, but because the game's been out for 2.5, 3 weeks somewhere by the time this video is going to come out, hopefully. So I don't think it's one of those things. I haven't really experienced the whole game yet. I've kind of done a sampling of everything to get an idea. And I think I have a pretty good idea. There's like a couple little small things that I haven't really touched on yet and really experienced. Like, say, Breakthrough on every map. But I don't think that Breakthrough is really going to, I don't think, at least, there may be a, say, bad Breakthrough map where, this objective just doesn't work on Breakthrough. They need to move the flag because it's just a complete mess of people and it's impossible. It turns into Operation Metro or Locker. It's like some people might see that as a problem, but I'm like, I mean, if this is only an issue on the one map, then okay, then it's an issue on the one map. But sometimes that quote unquote issue is a fun change of pace, where you have the quote unquote issue for 15-20 minutes, you win or lose, and then you move on to another map where that's no longer a problem. So Breakthrough is a lot of fun, and that's kind of really it for the big, main modes. There's, at least in the main 2042 game, we'll get to some other stuff here in a bit. In the main 2042 game, those are really the only two modes. There is no rush. There is no team deathmatch. There is no any of the other air superiority, any of the smaller kind of game modes like that that's not in the game. Those have been stripped out and removed from the main game, which some people might immediately kind of go, red flags, that's not good. But there's a purpose for that, because those things do exist just in another part of the game, which we'll touch on later. So moving on from Conquest and Breakthrough, we have another great big mode that is a staple of this game, and that is Hazard Zone. And it's okay. It's perfectly serviceable. And that's sort of kind of all I really have to say about it. It's sort of kind of DICE's more recent answer to Battle Royale. It's not a Battle Royale, but it has some of those Battle Royale tendencies with the one life, but it's really more designed to be something kind of like Escape from Tarkov rather than a Battle Royale like Fortnite or Warzone or even Firestorm, which was DICE's last attempt at a Battle Royale. It was just dead on arrival in Battlefield 5. So, basically what happens is all these squads are dropped into an area, surprise, surprise, but instead of being dropped with nothing and having to loot, you're dropped in with kit. You've got weapons, you've got equipment, blah, 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 all that stuff, and you have to run around and steal data drives from crashed satellites. Following that, you then have to murderize the other squads, collect all your data drives, and get out alive, and then you get money. Not real money, of course. You get in-game money, which then you can use to buy more stuff to go back in even better prepared than before. And then if you survive that time, then you get even more money and more stats, and then you can just eventually have a whole bunch of equipment to go in with and try to... And, the more times you win, the more equipment you have, and then that's kind of supposed to be the quote-unquote addicting nature of the mode. But if you die, if your squad gets wiped, then you lose all that stuff and you have to start in with the bare essentials again, where you just have the normal gun and the normal grenades and that stuff. You retain a little bit of money. It's not like you lose all your money, so you could die 50 times in a row and actually probably accumulate a decent amount of cash. But that's kind of the consolation prize. So that way, you just don't get totally frustrated and never play the mode again. And I just don't really care for this mode. This is not what I'm looking for in a Battlefield game, and I don't really like it all that much. It's fine. It's serviceable. I don't hate it, but I don't like it either. And this is kind of what I suppose the specialists were designed for. And if this were the game, if Hazard Zone if they made Battlefield 2042, and this was the main mode, and there was no Conquest, and there was no Breakthrough, and there was no the thing I'm going to talk about next, Portal, then I'd be upset with everyone else. But Conquest exists, Breakthrough exists, Portal exists, so Hazard Zone kind of just being this kind of superfluous extra third mode doesn't really bother me. I can write it off and still have plenty of other fun with the game. Now, I'm sure there's those out there that probably will have a ton of fun in Hazard Zone, and hey, good for you. Go for it. Go for it. Have fun. Enjoy Hazard Zone. I'm sure DICE will like the fact that you enjoy Hazard Zone. But Hazard Zone is just kind of me. And that's really all I have to say on Hazard Zone. But it doesn't diminish my enjoyment of the game overall. So finally, we move on to the last big of the three main features in this game. You have All Out Warfare, Hazard Zone, and as I've kind of been teasing, drum roll please. Don't know if you heard that, because I was just tapping my fingers on my desk. But we finally get to Portal, which is 2042's answer to most of the big complaints / objections people have with this game. Oh, you don't like the fact that there's no classic-based squad system in 2042? Portal. Oh, you don't really like some of the weapons that are offered in the game? Well, you know how to fix that? Portal. Well, those really, really bad technical bugs that make the game completely unplayable? Portal can't fix that, actually. Unfortunately, that's, if the game just doesn't work at all, then Portal's not going to fix that. But most of the complaints that people have with this game that I've seen online, this or that, the blah, 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 I'm just like, Portal. Where any and like not any and all, but a lot of the problems I see people having with this game, I feel like really can seriously be solved in Portal because of its potential of making custom games. And a lot of people are going to try to make custom games like, it's infected zombies, whatever you want to call it. Here's a special team deathmatch, that's gun game. Here's XP bot farming lobbies, which, okay, fair enough. If you want to do that, I guess you can do that, but I don't think that's what it's designed for. But if you don't like the specialists, then you can make a conquest mode that has limited specialists that only use the specialists that are kind of more a direct comparison to the original class system, and then just use them and throw in all the 2042 maps and weapons and play it like that without having to worry about all the different types of specialists. And you can do that, and it kind of solves the classes don't exist anymore. Boo-hoo, I'm upset about that problem right there. And you can, it's literally a Thanos fine, I'll do it myself moment, where that's weapon balancing and tuning and stuff. That's something that can't be solved in Portal, I will admit. Although I would not be surprised if that is something that they end up eventually adding to Portal. And so, just as a test run, I did make a game mode where it was, hey, it's conquest on all of the 2042 maps with all the 2042 weapons, but only for specialists. Just as a default, I went with the beta specialists because just as a start, it kind of seemed like those were the closest analogous operators or specialists, that I could look at and point to and go, these are the original class archetypes, and mostly because that's what they were used for in the beta. But it's something I feel like I kind of want to experiment with and see if maybe there's an operator a specialist, that's going to be better to swap in and out, and then I can edit it just easily and just go into it. Is, I will admit, it's a little weird that you have to do it all on a web browser. You can't do it. I mean, for PC players, I suppose it's not that big a deal because battle log, hello, from back in the day. But for console players, it is a little weird that you got to get off your console and go all the way to a computer and tap it, tap, type. So I do kind of wish that you could edit your game modes. And create game modes and stuff on the console and not having to do it in a web browser, but that's like a minor nitpick because just the ease in which I was able to go through all these features and select things how I wanted them and to go, all right, here's classes in 2042. Everything else is the same, but now it's got classes. Have fun. And that's that. It's like, that is awesome. And if someone doesn't like that, I mean, there's so many possibilities. And DICE probably most likely going to be adding things to this in the future. Really is, all right, say what you want to about 2042 as a whole, but Battlefield Portal, I depending on how this game goes forward, I really could see them eventually, kind of like with the Star Wars Battlefront 2 Celebration Edition, where they eventually relaunch 2042, but they call it Battlefield Portal, and they put out copies of it, physical copies on disc on PS4 and PS5 and Xboxes and blah, 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 where it's actually Battlefield Portal, and it's got the 3 soldiers on the front. It's got the 2042 guy looking over his shoulder. It's got the Battlefield 3 guy just marching forward, and then it's got the 1942 guy, there with his Tommy gun or whatever, his Thompson. And I could see them doing that because I think Portal has a lot of potential, and I'm really excited to see where it goes forward, especially because it's not just you can customize anything you want in 2042, but they also include, as I just kind of spoiled, but you probably already know this, is that it also includes content from Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 1942, the original Battlefield, and Battlefield Bad Company 2 as well. And so much care and work was put into making Battlefield 3 feel like Battlefield 3 and making Battlefield 1942 feel like Battlefield 1942, but with modern graphics. And it's just they brought back a lot of the music. And the HUD, when you're playing these modes, it does look like it is in 2042, and they don't replicate the classic HUDs, which is a little disappointing, but, that's really not that big a deal because Battlefield 3 feels different from 1942, which feels different from 2042. So it really is cool that there's kind of like 3 Battlefield games crammed into one here. And it seems like DICE is going to be adding more, like maybe Battlefield 1, hopefully more stuff from 3. I'd love to play on some of the other 3 maps and stuff. just the ability to mix and match, because you can play the 2042 maps with 1942 classes and loadouts and vehicles and stuff, and you can put Battlefield 3 classes and loadouts and stuff on the 1942 maps, and that's just really, really cool. The amount of customization that you can do in Portal is really cool, and I think it has a lot of potential. For instance, I jumped into a hardcore match. I jumped into one of the 1942 maps, but with Battlefield 3 weapons and vehicles and classes and stuff, and really had a blast. It was just really, because it was a milsim server. They were trying to do a milsim with it, and that's why it was hardcore. There was no HUD, so it was really kind of immersive and cool. There's a moment where everyone's trying to crawl up the sand dune like in the actual military or something, and it was really kind of cool to get with everyone and be crawling. However, there was a problem, is that since it was hardcore and there was no HUD, no one was really for certain if they weren't used to Battlefield 3 and what the classes looked like. So it's like, and what the Russians look like compared to the American soldiers and stuff. So a lot of people, I don't think, were clear on that. And also, a lot of weapons were faction locked. So that was also a very obvious indicator. So there was a lot of team killing. Most of my deaths that match were from teammates shooting me, not even in the back, but straight up just shooting me in the face. It's like I'm walking towards one guy, kind of like, hey, I just get mowed down. He runs. It's happened over and over and over again. Finally, people start getting mad about it, and we're posting it in the text chat, like, it's like, learn, it's like, stop, the people with AKs are on your team, dummies, quit killing us. So that had to get straightened out. But it was kind of funny. I kind of enjoyed that. So now, if you are a Battlefield veteran, then Portal isn't really going to feel that much different. The core concept of making your own rule set and stuff is familiar to Battlefield fans, because you could do private servers were a thing, and that's a little different from like someone from COD maybe thinking, because it's like, oh, private server, where it's just a thing that you activate. No, that's more of a private lobby, but private servers and Battlefield are different, because it was rent a server, where you would actually pay real money to rent an official DICE server and then do whatever the heck you wanted with it. And it's like, okay, hey, Thursdays are repair tool only days, where everyone would run around just for repair tools. And it's like, okay, and it's like, hey, if you bring an RPG to this repair tool fight, then you're banned, and the admins would ban and stuff. And it's like, it could be on any map. You could limit the classes. You could do all these different things with the rule sets. And so from that perspective, Portal isn't really anything new. But the amount of extra stuff they poured into it to add customization to it, and to make your own special game modes like Team Deathmatch or Zombies or whatever, that's just really, really cool. And it's free. Well, I mean, it's not free, because you got to pay for the base game. But that's all. You just have to pay for the base game, and after that, you can just do whatever the heck you want, which I just think is really awesome. They've actually, for as much flack as this game is getting for being a cash grab, they've actually removed a paywall. They've actually removed a form of payment that previously has been something that you've had to pay for. Private servers where you can make your own custom rule sets and stuff has existed before in Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline. Not 100. I don't think Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 did that, but 3, 4, and Hardline most certainly did that. I know that for a fact, because I lived through it. Because that was one of the worst things in the world. Whenever it's all right, just loading up Battlefield 4 in the living room, and then the little custom banner that would be in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen would have some sort of custom image on it that the server admin would put on there to personalize it at his, and it'd be some sort of obscene something or other that it's not fit to be in the middle of a family living room, and it's like, no! Take it away! Take away this obscene image. That was always the worst. I hated that so much, but sometimes those were the only servers that allowed that were operating Caspian Border 2014 or something. Oh gosh, I'd forgotten about that until just now. The trauma. So yeah, Portal is really, really cool. I really enjoy Portal, being to see all the mix and match things. and just the potential that it has going forward, adding old stuff, the ability to tweak the current stuff. So Portal is just really, really cool, and I really like Portal. Now, some people I think maybe could complain about Portal because like in All Out Warfare, you get Conquest and Breakthrough. That's it. And then it's Hazard Zone. Then there are no other modes in this game, which people might maybe rightfully so could complain about a lack of modes in the game, and that DICE just expects us to make them that, oh, DICE is being lazy. It's like, if you want to play Team Deathmatch, you gotta make it yourself. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I can kind of see that. However, on the other hand, I think there is really something special about giving you a core experience. Here's what we know you guys love about Battlefield. Have fun with this. And then as for the other modes, like Team Deathmatch or Capture the Flag or Infection or basically any other game mode under the sun, that Search and Destroy or something like that, that you can think of, make it yourself. The world is your oyster. Have fun. I mean, honestly, a lot of people probably might see that as lazy, but I see that as an incredible thing. Not only is that are they giving the fan base just the ability to run wild, and in some cases people have run wild, like the before and aforementioned bot farms and stuff, but it's like, they're so lazy because they didn't make the game modes themselves. It's like, no, it's the opposite. They put in the work to be able to give us the development tools to make the game modes. No, they did not put in the time to make the game modes, but how much more extra dev time do you think that they probably had to put in, not only in the game itself, to able to be, it's like importing stuff from Battlefield 3 in 1942, and not really even, some of it's imported, I feel like, yeah, but like the 1942 stuff, I mean, that's like got to be all like new assets. I think some of it's definitely based on Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, but like the windmill in the Battle of the Bulge map is straight out of Battlefield 1, I know that for a fact. I'm walking around and thinking about, this seems familiar. But, I mean, gosh, the technical wizardry that had to go into allowing a custom game set of that magnitude and crossing, and the crossing of all this different stuff, I feel like is more work and more complicated than just going, all right, here's Team Deathmatch and Capture the Flag and your typical modes that a very, very small portion of the player base will play anyway compared to Conquest. So I really commend DICE for their work on Portal. Honestly, I could have hated the rest of Battlefield 2042. It's like, the guns feel bad. The maps being smaller sucks on last gen. I don't like these specialists. I want my class gameplay back, blah, 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 blah. But I would still have bought it and would still be rooting for this game based on Portal alone, because I think Portal is fantastic. And I cannot wait to see what they do with it moving forward. And I really hope that they do some really cool stuff with it moving forward. This is the end of part 1 of my Battlefield 2042 review. If you're looking for the next part, it will be available soon. Make sure to check back later or click the link of the video if you're watching this well after the fact. Thanks for watching.